Good morning or good afternoon, Ms. Kimario Scholastica. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Henry. Good morning, Marsha. Good morning, Ms. Scholastica. This is Rahul Sharma from Ambar. Good to, and a very good.
It is a great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Scholastica Silvan Kimario and all the panelists that will intervene this morning and present their thoughts and insights on the topic of mindful leadership. It is indeed a very exciting topic that will give us the opportunity to explore what it involves, what it entails, and how it can have an impact both at work and at home, and strengthen one's ability to connect with yourself and with others, and enable you to lead effectively change of at all levels. But we certainly will hear more from the specialists in that field in a few moments. We are going to move on with the program. As I mentioned, we will have 5 panelists. We will first hear the keynote speaker, Dr. Scholastica Silvan Kimario. And then after a few different considerations, we will listen to 5 panelists. We will have today Bairo Mages, I'm sorry if I mispronounce the names, apologize for that, John Ulanga, Sarah Majengo, Doris Latter, and Elizabeth Shekalage. They will be properly introduced in a few moments. If we can move on with the deck, I would like to introduce myself as your moderator. My name is Henri Fourcault, Henry, if that's easier, and I'm a management specialist in the field of leadership development and change management. I've had the opportunity to work for quite a number of years in the UN system, and have worked not only in the field of leadership development, change management, as I mentioned, but also team building, both within the UN system, but also with international organizations and NGOs at the global level. So that is something I've done not only as a consultant, but also as a staff member. And currently I'm here with you in my capacity as director of the Empower Center for Leadership Development, which is based in Geneva. Now, I would like to tell you a few points of housekeeping nature. You are kindly invited to mute your mic and turn off your video. You can turn it on if you wish. And you can ask questions at the time that will be assigned to that using the chat box and raise your hand. You can see the icons at the bottom of your screen, both for the chat and for the reactions. You can raise your hand using the icon to that effect. We'll have 2 polls, so we invite you to participate in those, which will give us an opportunity to get to know more about your profile and your personal interests. So that you know, this webinar is being recorded and will be made available in Empower School of Health YouTube channels. And the slide deck that will be presented will be made available to all participants. So we will end this 1.5-hour program with a feedback form that we encourage you to fill so that it will help us continue to improve the quality of our programs. Now, this is a note to the attention of the speakers. we encourage you to turn on your camera so that people can engage better with you while you speak. And when you do not speak and someone else is, kindly mute your microphone. And the time will be monitored closely because we have 1.5 hours to complete the whole webinar. So we kindly ask you to please restrict your comments to the allotted time. Now, with respect to the objectives of this webinar, they are threefold. First, we're going to delve, as mentioned before, on the importance and on the role of mindful leadership. What is it? What does it entail? Why is it relevant to each one of you in this video room, so to speak? The second objective will be to announce the partnership between TAWOPHA, which is the Tanzania Women in Pharmacy Profession Organization, and Empower School of Health. And finally, it will be to announce scholarships for members of TAWOPHA. So now is the time to launch the first poll. So we kindly invite you to fill in your information as requested in this poll, and then we'll make a few brief comments about the profile of the group that we have here today for this webinar. So this should take a few seconds. You have 6 questions. And I'm happy to see that the number of participants is growing by the minute. So we have almost 60% who have filled in the poll. We invite the others to do so. Oh, you closed the poll, all right. So basically we noticed that we have a slight majority of women when it comes to gender, 55% women for 45% men. The primary age group is 30 to 40 with 16% below and roughly 40% above. When it comes to geographical distribution, we have the majority from Tanzania, 61%, and the rest scattered through East, West Africa, other parts of Africa, and 13% outside of Africa. When it comes to the academic background, the vast majority, 61%, come from the field of pharmacy, with 3% medicine and 16% other fields of health. And of that group, 16% work in the field of supply chain management. Now, the education level hovers around master's degrees and bachelor degrees, with some in diploma and PhD. And as to the last question, where do you work? We have the majority in the private sector, 35%, closely followed by MOH, other government bodies, 29%, 6% of UN organizations, and the rest in international organizations or NGOs, 23%. So that gives us a profile of who is in attendance, and we trust and hope that you will thoroughly enjoy this program that has been prepared to you by the Tanzania Women in Pharmacy Profession in partnership with Empower. And with this, I would like to yield the floor to Marsha Makata Yambi, who represents here TAWOPHA, the Tanzanian organization involving women in pharmacy, for her own remarks. So please, over to you, Marsha.
Thank you for unmuting me. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here in this webinar, and I appreciate everyone's time to create and be here. The main event objectives have been shared. Thank you so much, Henry. And also thanks to all the team members and panelists for appreciating and accepting this invitation. TAWOPHA in brief is a non-governmental organization and is taking on board women in pharmacy profession. And its establishment is recorded way back in 2008. And it is a registered entity by one of the government and registration bodies. This is the Ministry of Home Affairs. And TAWOPHA's main agenda is to ensure that it allows women to reach their maximum potential, to unleash their potential, to ensure that they participate in pushing and making contribution to the pharmacy profession as much as they can. I will also share a little bit brief around this partnership, which we have entered with Empower Swiss. And this is basically to ensure that we hold each other's hands to reach maximum potential of getting opportunities to fundraise and also opportunities to build the capacity of professionals in Tanzania. With that brief, I appreciate and welcome all. Karibuni sana.
Thank you very much, Marsha, for this introduction of one of the organizations behind this event today. So we look forward to further interactions during this webinar. Let me say a few words about Empower, which is the other partner involved in this webinar. Empower is a capacity building organization that focuses on strengthening the institutional and human resources capacity of organizations involved in global health and humanitarian programs. And Empower does that through digital learning platforms. There are three main focus areas to what Empower does: leadership and change management, which is the part I'm very much involved in personally. It's a very exciting field because there is a tremendous need for a better leadership and change management environment and for enabling organizations and the people working in them in achieving the anticipated results or the vision that they have for their organizations. The second one is digital learning. Empower has a vast experience of digital learning platforms, creating them, customizing them to the needs of clients across the globe. And finally, the third focus area is public health, particularly procurement and supply chain. So supply chain strengthening, procurement strengthening are very much part and central to what Empower does. So that's just to give you a brief overview of what we do. You can see on the right-hand side the wide array of partners and clients, not partners, but clients that Empower works with. and they span the range of UN organizations, international NGOs, private sector. Currently, we have an ongoing piece of work and project with Johnson & Johnson, and you can see the list, not comprehensive, but a sample of the organizations that we have had the privilege to serve and provide services to. Let's move on to the next one. You can see here where we are operating. Headquarters for Empower are in Geneva, Switzerland, as well as in New Delhi in India. And as I've alluded to earlier, we have partnered and currently partner with international NGOs, regulatory bodies, civil society organizations, industry, associations, technical research institutes, and universities. So in all continents, all over the world, primarily in Africa and Asia, as you can see, we have quite a number of very ambitious projects currently in all parts of Africa. So with this, I would like to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Dr. Scholastica Silvan-Kimario. Dr. Scholastica Silvan-Kimario is the founder and chief executive of Maadili Leadership Solutions in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. She is a global thought leader on governance, international diplomacy, and development cooperation. So she has 31 years of working experience with the United Nations in different countries and various levels of responsibilities and leadership with a high level of seniority. And she is certified in conscious leadership and mind-body energy healing practitioner, which is very much linked to the topic that she's going to speak to, which has to do with mindful leadership. I'm sure there's a lot more to say about the background of Dr. Kimario, but I will apologize for not maybe giving justice to your background. And please, I hand it over to you, and feel free, obviously, to correct me and supplement what I may have failed to highlight. Dr. Kimario.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Scholastica. We can hear you very well.
I can't hear you.
We can hear you. Do you see my hand?
I can't hear you.
All right. Rahul and Sonia, can you help Scholastica?
No.
Ma'am, might be there is some internet issue. Can you turn off your camera, please?
Apparently, Scholastica can't hear us.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, you can hear me. Oh, excellent. Okay, let me go ahead to introduce the subjects. Thank you very much, the organizers and all of you, for inviting and accommodating me. I want to start speaking on the issue of mindfulness and the workplace No, we can stay on the emblem, actually, on Maadili's emblem. Yeah, you see, maadili is a Kiswahili word that has 4 concepts: values, ethics, principles, and discipline, according to my understanding. So we stand for principle-centered, disciplined leadership solutions. And our core value proposition is awareness, consciousness, and mastery. And I worked both I went to actually study mind, body, energy medicine at the end when I retired from the United Nations after 31 years of service in 2009. I wanted to know, I had a very illustrious career. I remember we had many achievements, but there were also many challenges. And over time, I felt that there were stressful situations, there were traumatic situations. And I felt by the time I retired, and I had actually also looked at the statistics for UN retirees, and data shows that many of them die between 0 to 5 years after retirement. And a number of them die within the next 5 years. And I definitely didn't want to be in that statistic. So I was also curious to find out what would it take, for me to survive my retirement and to live a good, healthy life. So what I'm going to share with you quickly is that I found out awareness. Let me say, I found out that I was my own worst enemy, and that no enemy of mine was able to actually betray me, so to speak, as I did. And I wanted to know why that was the case. So that's why I went to study mind, body, energy medicine at the Chopra University in California, and I've been studying in other places, including with Dr. Joe Dispenza and others. But I have to tell you that what I have learned is that awareness is really a very important part of mindfulness. And it's not awareness of things from outside, it's awareness of yourself. And then it gives you permission to have a response which is based on consciousness, a more nurturing response. And towards that, you will then be able to go to self-mastery. So I did it for my own catharsis, but also to come and share with anyone who will stand long enough to listen, and hopefully the younger generation, so that you can succeed more than I did without also incurring the wounds, your personal wounds and the wounds that we inflict on others unknowingly. We can go to the next slide, please. Next slide. We will skip my brief. Well, it might have been introduced, so we can go to the next slide. This is a presentation outline. Since I will take you through it, I'll save time. Yes, I want to say, the first thing I want to say is this. No. Go back to the, we leave the presentation, yes. This slide, I want to tell you that most workplaces operate like the fire brigade. Whether you are the executive director or a staff member, I have found that many of us live, if you look at this graph, the colors as the traffic lights, many of us actually live in the orange and red zone. Very few of us live in the area of calm, able to take things in stride, able to take feedback and adjust to other changes. Many of us live in a place of fear, exhaustion, poor performance, and quite easily overwhelmed. So we live in the yellow, orange, and red zones. And we'll go ahead. Next slide, please. If we had more time, we'll go through it, but you get the point. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now I'll go quickly. You know causes of chronic stress in your own place, but right now WHO, ILO, private sector, the Gallup people have been documenting this, but now the UN, some of those UN organizations are actually documenting that people are dying from overwork, you know, and of course the underlying cause is stress and related diseases. We shall see that. Heavy workload, tight delivery deadlines. I worked in the UN, you know, producing more for the dollar, doing more for less, and tight deadlines, job insecurity and poor support, changes within the organization, micromanagement and lack of autonomy. Actually, I'm quite shocked in Tanzania at the many changes that are being done at the leadership in all sectors of public sector. And change management is not child's play. And I'm wondering how everybody concerned is actually going to be coping with the stress, and whether or not they will have the knowledge and skills to know how to manage change, understand and manage change. And then lack of sufficient resources, autocratic management, favoritism, and poor prospects of your career. Moving on. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, impact on productivity, going quickly, and the profitability. Oh, impact on productivity, reduce productivity, unduly high performance and production costs, disengagement, low energy work environment, increased absenteeism and sick leave days, increased number of days taken off for the doctor's visits, increased healthcare costs to the employer, higher accidents and injury rates where relevant, higher employee turnover rates, which is also reduces productivity, increased admin costs, and then negativity. When people are unhappy, they are negative, they are intolerable, and the work relations become poor. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so why is this important to know? You see, for one to be mindful, one has to be centered, mind, body, energy, spirit centered. So the way for you and I to know that we are actually having a negative impact from not being able to understand and manage our chronic stress, you will see among others, it is observable if people are paying attention at the workplace, and at the personal level, fatigue. You are tired when you go to bed in the evening, you wake up even more tired, thinking that you are taken away by witches in the night to till their fields, and then they brought you back in the morning. It didn't happen. Lack of innovation and motivation. I honestly see it as a very seriously Tanzanian thing. Irritability, when something happens and somebody is irritable, it's actually not about you, it's about them. Lack of enthusiasm, depression, which many of us deny having, but all of us do have different levels of depression, and acknowledging it is a good thing because then you can deal with it. Depression, like other things, is actually energy, and that can dissipate. Low productivity, poor relationship with yourself, and then poor work relationships. Moving on. Next slide, please. Now, what happens when stress, chronic stress, is not dealt with? Also anxiety, which is related to unmet needs on the workplace. A number of things do happen. You actually are growing seeds of illness. So stress does leave certain changes in physiology. And it increases blood pressure and heart stress, which leads to coronary heart disease. It increases stress hormones and therefore takes your anxiety levels, insomnia, and addictions high. Increases blood sugar, resulting in diabetes and obesity. Decreases circulation to the digestive tract, digestive imbalances. Decreases growth hormones and sex hormones, which leads to premature aging. It decreases immunity and infections, and leading to infections and cancer. And it also increases in sticky platelets and heart attacks. So moving on, please. Now, the person, each one of us would experience those things that I've just described. And so what then should one do to work towards mindfulness? The most important thing is to know yourself. And even Aristotle said so long ago, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Moving on. Next slide, please. The thing is, many of us were not taught how to know ourselves. So who are you? And from the mind, body, energy knowledge base, we look at you as your mind, body, spirit. And this is presented as an hourglass, precisely because we want to make the point that the ego is actually our constraint to becoming balanced, to becoming mindful. We won't talk about a lot about and it's presented as an hourglass because most of us live in the body, which is why the body is at the top. We do have the impacts of what happens in the mind, although we find that many of us do not understand the mind sufficiently, and therefore, or even the chronic importance, the critical importance of our thoughts and how to work with them. So, and then few of us are really centered in the spiritual, and spiritual as opposed to religion. So the message from this graph, when we work with people in Madily Leadership Solutions, is to share knowledge, skills, and tools on how to actually balance each of the three, so that ultimately you can turn the hourglass glass upside down, so that we live our lives as eternal spirit beings, having a temporary human experience, and of which the mind and the spirit have an important place to play in actually being able to help us to balance. Next slide, please. So your mind, body, spirit, the question on the floor is, who are you? And knowing thyself is the next slide, please. And then you and I are also the 5 elements of nature. Space, air, fire, water, and earth. And we do have an instrument, actually. It's called the Mind Body Type Questionnaire, which you can fill out. You don't have to say anything about yourself. You just circle 1, 3, or 5. And then when you send it back to me, I can give you feedback on what it is saying to you. And it actually becomes quite important to know, each one of us has, Vata is usually a combination of air and space, and fire, the Pitta is fire and water, and then Kapha is earth and water. And we find in many cases, the strongest leaders have got a certain combination, but then there's no right or wrong. The most important thing is for you to know, that questionnaire will help you to know what gifts you got from God or from your maker when you were conceived. And then it also shows what are your strong points, how you should know when you are going out of balance. And yeah, the details of that are usually given to a longer session. So let's move on. So your mind, body, spirit, you are also part of the 5 elements of nature. And then you and I are energy and information. Those of you, most of you must have studied biology. And the energy centers, which are also called chakras in Sanskrit, which is an ancient Indian language. But the energy centers are actually derived from the pituitary, they are, synonymous with the pituitary gland, the glandular system. And the energy, I think some of you will remember, you must have met somebody, you didn't know them, but you didn't like them, or you knew them, but you liked them before you even talk to each other. It's our energies speak. So when people say, when you enter the room, your energy precedes you. So it's very important to have positive energy, which can only come, of course, from mindfulness living, than to have negative energy. Moving on, in the interest of time, moving on. Next slide, please. Okay, now, this is very important. the subconscious mind is actually the part of you. You and I don't have to worry about whether or not we are breathing, the blood is circulating, you know, things are happening in our bodies and in our lives. That is actually controlled by the subconscious mind. And it records everything that you do and your reactions. It always alerts, it is always alert and awake, including at night, which is why we don't pass out because it's asleep. Controls 95% of our lives. This is really very important because understanding this will enable you and I to know why, when you start a program of change, why it is so difficult to change, is because you need to find a way of reprogramming. Your subconscious has been programmed by every step you've taken since you were in the womb. And now if you want to change to a mindful person, you will have to take certain steps that will enable your subconscious mind to have the peace of mind to let you be an evolved person. Otherwise, it will keep fighting you and keeping you out of change. And then it's built on habits. It speaks to you in dreams. It has no verbal language. It takes everything literally. And that is why often we are cautioned, even in normal language, always speak positively about your life, about yourself, about other people, about your dreams. Even joking negatively is not cool. You know, the subconscious does not know the difference. It copies everything as you say. And when you are remembering stressful situations from the past, your body also, your subconscious thinks you are now going through the stress and it stresses you more. So you then become your own mchawi, your own, what can I say? Your own mchawi, your own witch.
On which,
But luckily you are also your own doctor when you know what to do. So it is not the logical, it is not logical, it's the feeling mind. And where do you feel stuff? You feel stuff in the body. And so the most important lesson here is one, from now on, always listen to what your body is saying and honor your body. Even for small things like, you know, I want to go to the bathroom. I am the boss. The bathroom is within en suite in my office, but I have to wait until I go, you know, as a matter of emergency. It is not good habit. From now on, listen to your body, honor your body. Why? Because it is the best computer that God has given you. It computes everything and it will give it to you without value evaluation. And therefore, that's why you have to change your habits and behavior in order for your subconscious to be a good leader. Moving on, next slide, please. Okay, so just to say that, because this is a small presentation, a brief one, there are a couple of things one can do to actually begin if you are experiencing chronic stress or even your anxiety at any given moment. There is important, meditation actually has a very important benefits on the brain. Brain function improvement, mood, cognition, stress reduction, improves focus and improves gyrification, which means it keeps the brain holding the folds together, because when the folds open, that's when you begin to experience things like Alzheimer's disease, etc. So the message of this slide is, don't think, meditate. Now, I know there's a great deal of debate out there about meditation, but I'm sure medical and health people like yourselves already at least have begun to know the scientific and not simply the other meanings of meditation. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, we talked about the energy centers. There are also ways in which one can meditate in order to clear the energy in the energy centers. And the two energies that most of you are very familiar with is, you know, when you have anxiety and you say, I feel like I have butterflies in my stomach. that is actually a sign that your third energy center is out of balance. So there are ways in which you can meditate to clear them. And when you do, you get all these benefits that we are mentioning: physical well-being, financial wisdom, etc. Gives you intuition, allows you to know your inner self, allows you to express and release emotions in a healthy manner. Next slide, please. So one thing we all need to do is actually to meditate. I'm waiting for the next slide. Yes, so that is really, those are the things, that is the basis on which people become out of balance. And that is actually, those are the causes of, or the constraints that make people not be mindful. Now, we at Adili Leadership Solutions, we actually offer knowledge, skills, and tools on how to discover and unleash your highest leadership potential, mind, body, spirit. The next slide, please. Being aware of time. So, yes. Now, I just put this, you know, for the employer, since we are in this kind of conversation, why would it be beneficial for the employer to invest in a workplace, you know, wellness program beyond just taking people's blood pressure, that, you know, the blood to look at diabetes and then to go for a walk? It's very important because again, you know, Gallup and other organizations show that these days many people, and I can't even account for Corona now, but the benefits for the employer to put people through this is, first of all, the recognition that your health is your wealth. And the health of your staff, your leaders, is actually the wealth of your company. There are a number of tangible results that can be measured over time, and it can be measured also through the mind-body type questionnaire, but this can be input into the performance indicators of any organization. You can measure reduction in the incidence of absenteeism, reduction in hospital and medical bills, improved employee engagement in their core business. You can also observe creativity, improve productivity and profitability, and quite importantly, improve personal and interpersonal relationships. Next slide, please. So this we are promising. Now, Maadili offers a number of services. The first one is the signature course, 5-module signature course, whereby the module 1 is how to know thyself, mind, body, spirit. Food as medicine, nourishment for body and mind and soul. Tools for daily regeneration, perpetual renewal. So we are not always waiting for, thank God it's Friday, or when is my holiday. For me, I used to go to holiday at home. I didn't go to, even when I went to some national park, when I came back, I still needed another holiday to recover from that holiday. But there's a way you can live your life such that you don't need a holiday. And then how to attain emotional freedom, how to have emotional intimacy with yourself, and how to harness your body's 5 senses for wellness and healing. And we can be reached at this website link, and also via WhatsApp by the phone number we give there. And then finally, we also have specialized services, workplace wellness, women's wellness, youth wellness, marital relationship support wellness, HIV and AIDS wellness support, and then perfect retirement wellness support. And that can also be, we can also be contacted at that website. So the ultimate thing is, once you go through this kind of training, I do find that when I have been working with corporates, staff are usually, and management are usually focusing on career. But when people actually undertake this holistic wellness program, one actually realizes that there are at least eight aspects of wellness, you know. So it's career, it's physical, social, spiritual, emotional, environmental, financial, intellectual. And when one is able to when one is taking our course, we encourage every time, every module has actually an opportunity for people to make a note for their vision. Because then at the end of the workshop, they are supposed to, every staff member, every participant is supposed to develop a personal vision that includes the issues that they want to achieve in their lives, as well as the issues they want to achieve in their workplace. And for those things, they will have then to go into their performance indication. So that is really what I wanted to share with you briefly. And we are available as Maadili Leadership Solutions. We are passionate about perfect health, especially because I burnt out and I know how it feels and what it feels. And I would not want it on anybody else. And therefore, I am available to individually or with groups to actually offer this service, because I honestly feel, especially now that we've been in Corona mode for almost 18 months, people are burnt out, people do not have solutions to a number of things. But when people are centered, when one has got mindfulness, it becomes easier to navigate through life. And for me, if one life changed because mine was so hectic and I had to go and learn this, I would be the happiest person on earth, that I have at least been able to make a difference. Thank you very much for your attention. And I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Scholastica, for this.
Ooh, if only I could hear you.
You cannot hear, unfortunately. We certainly appreciated very much that insightful presentation, a lot of food for thought. I am sure that all participants have a lot of questions to ask you, and they will have an opportunity to do so after we finish with the presentations. So now, for the purpose of moving on, and after that we'll have 15 minutes, after all the presentation, we'll have 15 minutes for Q&A. First, I would like to introduce Ms. Guairo Magues. I do apologize very much if I'm mispronouncing the name, so please correct me afterwards. Ms. Guairo Magues is USAID Global Supply Chain Logistics Management Services Advisor in Tanzania. I hand it to you now so that you can do a better job of introducing yourself, maybe share some additional background information, and then move on with your presentation on mindful leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Guido Magesa. I'm a logistics management services advisor at Global Health Supply Chain Technical Assistant, TZ. Briefly, I'll be actually adding on what Mama Scholastica has been telling us. We are looking forward to, I want to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Hello?
We can't see it yet.
Dada Masha, please, can you share my screen on your side? Hello? Thank you.
Yes, it's on the screen now. Yeah.
Please put it on. Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to comment more on what the key speaker has mentioned. We are looking forward to a mindful, actually leadership kind of, because most of us, we are afraid of being leaders, because once we are leaders, some of the things, the very personal things actually are not really going well with our lives. And at the same time, as leaders, we tend to actually hurt others as we are doing our leadership tasks. So this coming program will help the existing leaders, the upcoming leaders, actually to be so mindful of whatever we are doing by being conscious with our leadership. So we are asking, are we mindful or mindful? Next, please, Dada Masha. The only person we are actually destined to become is the person we decide to be. So it is up to the leaders now to work on that. And at the same time, understanding that without a vision, it's not easy for the people you are leading to actually follow you. So Peter Drucker is insisting on shifting of our own vision to higher sides. We need to raise people performance to higher standards, but also to build of this performance on personality perspective, because once we understand ourselves, the self-awareness Mama Scholastica was telling us about, we'll be able to also understand the people we are leading. Next, please. We know that by understanding ourselves, we will be able to actually communicate whatever we want to achieve. We'll be able to build the trust among the people we are working with, but also at the end of the day, we'll be able to also unleash that. So on my side, for different kinds of leadership styles, but most of it, I thought that conscious or bulletproof kind of leadership was the key to my achievement, because you need to consciously remember to do whatever you are doing, to remember that position, either with or without a title. But you can't achieve this if you are not genuine, if you are not understanding yourself, you are not self-aware, if you are not even aware of others. But you also need to understand the environment you are in. That is, you need to be emotionally aware of the system around you. You need to be able to change, to manage changes within you and the people you are leading. Next, please. This kind of leadership actually works better in the environment where we want to create a sustainable organizational institution culture, which will look into excellence. So if you really want a competitive edge, which will take you longer to keep your organization or the institution, you need to be able to actually lead consciously. You need to lead consciously. You cannot actually be running away from bullets. You need to have that bulletproof part, yeah, to be able to nurture the organization you are working with. At the same time, this one cannot work well in case the organization vision is not clear. So it is part of us leaders to understand that we need to have clear mission and vision for people to understand. It should be well communicated. But recruitment is key to all this, because you need the alignment of people skills, the processes, in order to achieve what you want, that culture you want to build. But when leaders are not authentic, this kind of leadership style will not work. So authenticity is key. You can't be an orange outside and an apple inside. It's our task to start from the the very primary institution, which is at family level, yeah, to bring up our kids in such a way that they will be authentic to whatever they are doing. They should not be apples while inside their oranges. This particular platform, the mindful leadership, will help us to actually be conscious of what is going on in our lives. You need to focus on career, yes, but at the same time, you need to balance when you want to wealthy, when you want your family issues and your health at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Buiro, and sorry for mispronouncing your name earlier. Thank you for this very interesting and thought-provoking presentation. We look forward to a few questions and further insights during the Q&A period later on. And now I am happy to introduce to you the next speaker, John Ulanga, who is the country director at Trademark East Africa, based in Tanzania. So I give you the floor, John, and you can feel free to add a few things about your own background.
Thanks, Harry. In the interest of time, I wouldn't talk about myself, but probably I'll share my reflections, not in a form of a presentation, but just some thoughts here and there from what I've heard so far. First, I think this is a very pertinent discussion around mindful leadership. And for me, mindful leadership is about conscious leadership, is about emotionally intelligent leadership. And one of the things that I do, I'm also a certified emotional intelligence trainer. And therefore I'll talk about mindful leadership from the angle of being emotionally intelligent. That if you are a mindful leader, you have to be mindful about what you do, mindful about yourself, and along the lines of what Scholastica and Buiro have already said. And I use a competence model that looks at 6 competencies. The first one has already been touched by colleagues, is about self-awareness. As a mindful leader, it is fundamentally important to be self-aware of what are your strengths and areas that you need to improve, self-aware of the way you make others feel, self-aware of how your emotions impact your thinking, impact your actions. You have to be self-aware on how you show up, how do people see you. So that's the first. The second aspect, and others also have touched it, is about awareness of others. As a leader, you lead.
I believe we have lost the sound.
Oh, okay. Somebody muted me. Apologies. Somebody muted me. Can you hear me now? Yeah. So the second one, I talked about awareness of others. As a leader, a mindful leader, you don't need to sometimes even listen to people to get to know what they feel. You have to be able to even read their body language. And once you read their body language, you can engage them more intelligently. The third we was also talked about is authenticity. How genuine are you in expressing what you think, what you feel, and to what extent people think that you are genuine? So authenticity is the third most, quite important pillar around mindful leadership. The fourth one is emotional reasoning. When you are making decisions, to what extent are you doing a correct balance between emotions and objectivity? So when you are making decisions, you have to be aware of your own emotions and the emotions of the others, but at the same time being objective. So emotional reasoning is you have to be expansive in your emotional reasoning as opposed to only being limited. The fifth one is self-management. We have our emotions, we have our disappointments, we have our angers, we have everything that triggers us in a right or wrong way. To what extent are we able to manage ourselves, even in situations of adversity, and probably as the leader, especially in situations of adversity? To what extent do we manage ourselves? And the last one is around inspiring performance as a mindful leader. To what extent your actions, your behavior inspire performance in others such that they feel empowered. When you show up, the people around you feel empowered. So for me, that's also the sixth and probably important fundamental pillar of mindful leadership. So that's it. Maybe just as a footnote, the whole aspect of or subject of emotional intelligence has been written very, very well by a guy called Daniel Goleman. And it will be good if people go and read his writing. I think one of the most important or famous one is the one written called Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Please, anyone interested, go look out for that book. Thanks a lot for now. Thanks, Henry. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, John. It was very interesting. We noted the 6 key areas involved in mindful leadership and the link with emotional intelligence. So we'll hear more from you during the Q&A part of the program. Now I would like to introduce to you our next speaker, Sarah Majengo, who is the Communication and Public Relations Manager at Sangas Limited. So I'm giving you the floor, Sarah, and you can certainly add a few comments about your own background.
Thank you, Henri. Thank you, everyone. So I'm really glad to follow after John and all the other speakers because they have kind of already paved the way for what I will also touch upon, which is also echoing some of the things that have already been shared. It's unfortunate Scholastica can't hear us, but I feel that her presentation has impacted me directly. So perhaps on this call, I am that one person she was talking about when she was talking about her vision and her passion for mindfulness. A little bit about me, prior to my current role, I was in consulting, and very much like what Scholastica shared, I identified with the stress that she was talking about. And so that also helped me to really analyze on the kind of leader I want to be and also the kind of work I want to do. So I have a presentation, but I just have 4 talking around the area of mindful leadership, and they have to do with just like what has been said already, that in order to grow in leadership, you need to develop yourself. You need to know yourself. You need to know how to work with yourself. So the 4 aspects that I want to touch on are courage, empowerment, vulnerability, and empathy when you are talking about this area of mindful leadership. So tackling courage, what does that mean really? In our culture, I find that a lot of times we are not able to have conversations that are honest, conversations that build each other up in the workplace. So it takes a courageous and mindful leader to facilitate an environment that fosters open discussions, open and honest discussions where people feel that it is safe to speak without negative repercussions. The other aspect is empowerment. As much as we like to empower our people, we know that often goes, it's more written. It's more a written thing than a live thing in organizations. And as leaders, it is very tempting to micromanage individuals or micromanage a process. So as a mindful leader, I think but also hold them accountable for the results that they need to deliver. The third thing on vulnerability, and this is something that was spoken about with all the speakers. When we talk about vulnerability, how do I respond when there's a crisis? How do I respond when I haven't delivered or my team has let me down? To what extent do I show or demonstrate that vulnerability? And John talked about over and above emotional intelligence, but that emotional awareness of how to frame that disappointment or how to frame that sense of urgency when there's a crisis around the corner. So to be a mindful leader, I think it's very important how we deal with this aspect of vulnerability. And it doesn't mean putting all your emotions out there, but it is a way of expressing yourself that connects with people. And yeah, John talked about it. I can't remember what he said exactly. Authenticity, right? Authenticity, he called it authenticity. So yeah, when you can come across as an authentic leader that can be vulnerable, this is something that teams really appreciate, people that we're leading really appreciate in the workplace. Lastly, empathy. For me, empathy is two-way. It's empathy for myself and empathy for others. So whenever I need something done and I'm seeing that I'm facing a brick wall, for instance, I try to really understand, like John said, what hasn't been said, what is going on behind the scenes that I'm facing this particular challenge in getting this out of my team. So essentially it's putting myself in someone else's shoes, but also for myself within an organization where I have a leader, I'm expressing myself in a way that my leader can also have that empathy towards me. I'm particularly passionate about work-life balance and home. So this particular, I want to call it double burden. It's no longer the traditional sense of double burden for women, because nowadays we don't really consider 9 to 5 plus 6 to 10 as that double burden aspect for women's work. And so how are we accommodating women in the workplace, knowing that they are handling both sides of the stick in terms of work and home, in terms of delivering at a very high level for some women, and then also nurturing future generations in the home. So with those 4 points, I'll stop there on my take on mindful leadership. Thank you, Henri.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for a very interesting presentation. I think that by the end of all the presentations, we'll all be feeling empowered as mindful leaders, but we'll see about that. So let's move on with the next presenter, who will be Doris Lutter. Doris Lutter is a pharmacist, public health. Yes.
Henry, my apologies, Doris couldn't join. She has issues with the internet.
Okay.
She's been trying half an hour before the session started to that until now.
Okay, thank you.
So we proceed with the one in the line.
The next person, who is Elizabeth Shakalage. Again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing, and please correct me when you speak. And Elizabeth is a registrar at the Tanzania Pharmacy Council. So Elizabeth, we are happy to hear more about you and to listen with interest to your presentation. Over to you.
Thank you. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you very well.
Yeah, unfortunately, the internet is very unstable here. So maybe in the next 2-3 minutes, I will switch off this video because it is very unstable. I would like to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank you for inviting me to be one of the panelists talking about mindful leadership. And of course, I'll start by saying that everyone here is a leader. But of course, we should all understand that leadership is a role and not an activity. And in order to become an effective leader of others, you must first start by yourself. This is what my colleagues, the previous speakers, have also mentioned that about the self-leadership. To have the awareness by yourself, that's when you can also lead others. And of course, self-leadership, we can put it as one of the keys of self-leadership, of being mindful, to understand, and not only to look at the outcomes. Because as far as I understand, to become mindful leader, you have to be able to deal with difficult situations, the one which you are not accepting, because everybody will be looking at you. And if you are leading people behind you and you cannot overcome the difficult situations, you will make the entire group panic. And therefore, you should be able to make the right decision in the right time, regardless the circumstances that you are facing. And therefore, by being mindful, you can transform your own life. You can transform your friend's life and the community at large, but you have to start by yourself. So when we talk about mindful leadership, of course, we have specific attributes of this mindful leader. The first one, you have to be present. You have to be present in the meaning that you have to be there in that particular moment, being right there, rather than thinking what is the past. Because you have to be focused to see what will happen in the future, because everybody will be waiting to hear, what are you going to say? Which path are you, do you want them to go through with you? Of course, the issue of awareness, previous speakers have also mentioned about it. We have to be aware because we have to know exactly what is arising within that particular moment. We shouldn't agree to be blindsided. Calmness is also one of the key issues to a mindful leader. To be calm, it allows you to keep aware, of course, but everyone around you will be looking at you and see, how is our leader behaving? Of course, the issue of body language, Johnny also mentioned. So you have, because you are a leader, you have to lead others. You really have to be composed. You need to be calm so that people can have confidence with you. And you should also be able to sustain the performance and feel more resilient. The other thing, to become a mindful leader, you have to be clear. You have to be clear, and this is very critical in order to make the best decision and to understand what motivates your employees. Of course, the ability to accept, you have to accept, you have to be positive. You shouldn't be resistant, because sometimes you may resist something which you cannot change. Most of the organization, of course, most of the leaders wants to introduce some changes, but sometimes they don't get support. They don't get support because, as our keynote speaker has mentioned, it is not easy for somebody to change overnight. But as a mindful leader, you should find a way to see how you can introduce changes, regardless of the resistance that they might come over. But this is how you can achieve your goals. You also have to be positive. Positive, our speaker has mentioned about the positivity. You have to speak positive, positive about yourself, positive about others, and avoid the negativity, because that will not really build in your leadership career. To be compassionate also is very, very important, but this starts also by yourself. You have to care others, regardless what benefit are you going to get from others. So looking at our discussion today, actually, I was trying to ask myself, what kind of a leader am I? And of course, which situation does my leadership style work most? These questions are very difficult for myself to answer, but I'm expecting other people who have been led by me will be able in a position to tell me what kind of a leader I am. And therefore, I would like to encourage everyone here, as I said, because we are all leaders, first of all, to start raising awareness about ourselves, but also allow people to be able to evaluate you so that you can be able to establish your strength and your weakness. And of course, I understand we have different leadership styles, but all depends on what situation you can apply one or two or three. And of course, leadership is the journey. When I didn't hear when Henry was introducing me, but I did leadership, management, and change in my postgraduate studies. But that one also is not enough to make me the best leader. So depending on the environment we are, depending on different people you are working with, that's how you can build up your leadership career. So with these few remarks, I would like to thank for being given this opportunity, and I'm happy that we'll be discussing after my presentation. Because of time, let me end up here. Thank you very much, Henry.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for this very interesting presentation, highlighting the importance of starting with oneself, reinforcing that point that had been made also by your colleagues. And you asked some very thought-provoking questions, such as what kind of leader am I? And emphasizing that it is indeed a journey for all of us. So this brings us to the end of the presentations. We have heard a lot of very exciting, we heard a lot of exciting information on mind, body, energy. We heard the power of Aristotle's statement, knowing thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. We heard about the importance to lead consciously. We discussed and heard presentations about the power of emotional intelligence leadership, characterized by specific characteristics. We also heard about the importance of open and frank discussions, empathy for oneself and for others. And in the last presentation, developing the ability as an outcome of one's own self-awareness and self-management to deal effectively with difficult situations and challenging oneself to always do better. So these are some thoughts raised during those presentations. And now we are going to spend a few minutes with the Q&A. We have 71 participants. I think the easiest way to proceed would be for you to jot down a few questions. If they are targeting one speaker, say so or write so. And after we have a few questions, I will read them and the speakers will answer. So we don't have time for a lot of questions, but write a few and we'll pick as many as we can within the next 10 minutes or so, so that we give an opportunity to Scholastica and the panelists to answer the questions. So go ahead, I'm looking at the chat box and you can write your questions now. You can access the chat box at the bottom of your screen and then make sure you address it to everyone. That way I can see it, others can see it too. And after we have a couple of questions, we'll let the speakers answer. All right, so we don't have any questions yet. Okay, we have one. Okay, just for the sake of time, maybe I'll start with this one because that's the only one we have at this time. In leadership, some issues are very challenging. What is the mechanism of dealing with hard times while still remaining psychologically stable? So, and the next one, which I think is a bit related, is how can someone be able to control emotions, especially in a pressured environment? So I've not noticed that these questions are put to any particular speaker. So Scholastica and the 5 panelists, please, or the 4 panelists, please feel free to answer. You can raise your hand if you want so that the Empower technical team can open your mic. So we already have 2 questions. I'll read the others later. So who wants to address those questions? Do we have a volunteer amongst Elizabeth, Sarah, John, Buiro? John, go ahead.
Quickly, because I know colleagues also want to say something. I'll start with the last question. Can someone explain more what it means by leading from inside out? In one sentence, by leading from inside out, it means you have to start leading yourself before you go out leading people. So the aspect of starting with self-awareness, and then you go out, you use your self-awareness to lead others. That's what I could say. Number 2, around controlling emotions. That's the most important thing for leaders. How do you control emotions? But in order to control them, you have to know what your emotions are. So again, the issue of self-awareness, getting to know what are your emotional triggers and control those emotional triggers. And the best thing for a leader to do when you're emotional, you rather keep quiet, because anything you say can disturb or disrupt the environment. That's what I could say. Number 3, and I'll keep quiet after that, how do I evaluate myself as a leader? The best way to evaluate yourself is to ask for feedback. So and you have to be a very strong leader to be able to ask for feedback, because not all feedback, and most of the time the feedback won't be very good, but you have to have the resilience to listen to that feedback, because that's the best evaluation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, John. Just one last thing, John. Someone would like you to remind all of the title of the book you mentioned and the author. So it was Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, but please give more details.
Daniel Goleman, that's the title. Daniel, as for Daniel, Goleman is G-O-L-E-M-A-N, Goleman. Yes, and I write it. And the title is Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. We realize not the smartest kids in the classes you went to are automatically the leaders, because there's a gap between IQ and EQ, which is emotional intelligence.
Thank you very much, John, for this additional presentation and additional comments. Now we have a few other questions. earlier. The one I'd like someone to address is, what is the mechanism of dealing with hard times while still remaining psychologically stable? And related to that, how can someone be able to control emotions, especially in a pressured environment? Who would like to answer that, those two questions? I see Sarah or Biro. Sarah, go ahead.
Thank you, Henri. Thank you, John, for that. But just to add to John, and that will also answer this question about the pressure. There is a way, and Scholastica touched this in her presentation. You have to be physically aware of your triggers. So your body will tell you what it is that you're going through. So this pressure that we talk about, or that she asked in her question, it happens physically. It can be warmth that goes through the body, a quickening heartbeat. It's various different things. And that's the way you know what is physically happening to you to determine the appropriate response outside. Also, from a good leadership point of view, how do you tell? Actually, your team's performance, and Scholastica had a list on one of the slides. The performance of your team, the level of engagement is also a great indicator of how you're doing as a leader.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah, for these clarifications. It looks like Scholastica, can you hear us now? Yeah, we can hear you, Scholastica. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You can speak, Scholastica. Is there any hope to help Scholastica?
I think he's having a
Counter. All right. So anyone of the panelists would like to add something? I guess we cannot hear from Scholastica, which is most unfortunate. Any additional comments to address some of the questions raised? For example, we have okay, we have two more. How to fight selfishness in leadership. And if you are in an environment where the one you lead challenges you or don't accept you as a leader, how can someone deal with that situation? So who would like to address those questions?
Hello.
Okay, Biro, we are listening to you.
Thank you. I'll address the one if you are in an environment where kind of you cannot be accepted as a leader. For this one, you don't really need to be accepted by forcing others to accept you as a leader. We have said that we need to be self-aware. We need feedback. And feedback is feedback, be it negative or positive, it is feedback. So as a leader, as much as you are not actually accepted at the environment you are in, this is kind of one feedback, which is negative feedback. You need to accept that it is a negative feedback. And as a leader, you need to work on those people you are working with. You may find them, they are able to actually express why they don't need you, why they don't accept you, and you work on those areas why they don't need. You may be in a wrong area also. You are trying to lead people. We said people need to be authentic. Now, if you have people who are not authentic and you are trying as much as possible to be authentic, you may have a hard time to be accepted at a place like that. So as a leader, you need to go deeper, take in the feedback, be it negative or positive. And the negative feedback actually are the ones which are building leaders. You'll be built through negative feedback, the critiques. So you need to work on those areas which those people are actually addressing them. If they are not addressing them, it's up now to you as a leader to go deeper into you. Maybe you are portraying something which is of a mixed feeling to the people you are leading. So there's a lot to do and to wait for you to be able to be accepted at that particular niche organization or the place where you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Poirot, for these additional comments. And now we are going to close the part about question and answers with a response provided by Scholastica, who wrote her answer, as you can see. She is answering the question, how to keep calm in stressful situations. And her answer is, meditation is very important. Mind, body, energy, technology that facilitates transcendence between physicality and spirituality. And she's adding that breath work is also a set of breathing techniques which offer immediate calm, even in a meeting or other critical incidents. Dr. Andrew Weil and many others have written extensively on breathing for healing. Thank you all for your active participation. Thank you particularly to Scholastica and the 5 panelists. We very much enjoyed and learned a lot from your presentations. And now we're going to move to the next part of the program, which is an announcement of a partnership between TAWOPHA and Empower School of Health. And I'm yielding the floor to Marsha, who will speak to this. Marsha, over to you.
I'm still muted. Hello.
We can hear you, Marsha.
Okay. Good afternoon once again. Without further ado, allow me to appreciate the previous session. It was powerful. And for now, allow also me to announce of our partnership between Tanzania Women in Pharmacy Profession, this is TAWOPHA, and Empower Swiss. We entered into memorandum of understanding, and we appreciate that the signing and execution of the same has just started. We completed the signing back in March 25th of 2021, this year. And this memorandum will cover a number of areas and is taking on board the strength of the two institutions. This is TAWOPHA and Empower School of Health. And it has gone into detail into talking about what scope of it will cover. And we have looked into areas that will benefit the two institutions. And these are the areas where we'll explore new funding opportunities. Will also entail into engage into capacity building for TAWOPHA members, and also include pharmacy students as potential members to the TAWOPHA. And we'll also expand TAWOPHA reach to East Africa region. And this is to do with in terms of collaborations and joint joining other organizations of similar scope. And we'll also go into joint promotion of our activities and ensure that while we do that, we'll remain as separate entities while we do that. And with this element, I allowed me to appreciate the whole leadership under Henry, and also all the members of TAWOPHA, including the organizations that we work closely. This includes Pharmacy Council, Pharmaceutical Society of Tanzania, and all other members that are also supporting us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marsha. This is indeed a very exciting development, and we look forward to a lot of good coming out of this partnership. We are going to move now to the last part of the program, which is going to be various announcements in relation to scholarships. And for this, I'm inviting my colleague Rahul Sharma, who is Head of Partnerships and Innovations at Empower School of Health. Over to you, Rahul.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. Thank you, Ms. Marsh, and all the speakers. And thank you, Ms. Scholastica, for being one of our keynote speakers for today. And it was a very good session, I would say, on the mindful leadership. A lot of learning for even us to take forward. Now, in terms of the announcement of scholarship, I'm very much happy that TAWOPHA and Empower has joined hands, and I'm happy to announce the partnership along with a scholarship, and which means that there will be one full scholarship for one of the TAWOPHA member and 5 partial scholarship to the TAWOPHA members. Next slide, please. So when I say about scholarship, I mean one full scholarship, which is like free. It's like nothing to pay. So it will be all, it will be selected jointly with the TAWOPHA Ms. Marsha team and Empower team. And the 5 partial scholarships means that there's some partial payment, partial fees has to be paid for the scholarship. The next slide, please. So, okay, so the original fees for our postgraduate diploma in global health, procurement and supply chain management, which is in English and French too. And in the English one is, the fees is $2,500. So when I say one full scholarship, so all the members, whoever apply and whosoever get selected, it's a fee exempted scholarship for that member. And the five partial scholarship means that we'll be giving a discount of $101,000, and it will be only 1,500 USD, which has to be paid by the person who is selected for the partial scholarship. And for others who have missed out this opportunity, can definitely register for the program at the same initial price, or you can apply for the scholarship later on, and we will look into separate case-by-case basis and may allow some more scholarships in the future. Next slide, please. So when I say applying for a scholarship means that you have to send a brief CV, a 1-page note, and that should mention why do you want to apply for the scholarship? How will you how will this scholarship improve the supply chain management in Tanzania? So the contact email addresses for this is operations@Empower School of Health and info@empowerswiss.org. So you can note down this, and we'll be sending you the PPT later on with the webinar recording. So you can send an email and a brief CV and a brief note on this email IDs. Once the applications are received, it will be reviewed by both Empower team and the TAWOPHA's team, and the selected applicants will be informed. However, you can see the details of this course on this link, which is there, and my team will post on the chat the various courses which Empower School of Health is having, and you can look at those courses and even apply for that. After you are next slide, please. After you are selected from Empower School of Health, you will be sending your scholarship approval letter, and it will be sent to the person who receives the scholarship, both the free one and the partial one. And once the scholarship letter is there, you will also be receiving a certificate of scholarship from Empower School of Health, and that this will make sure that you are an Empower scholar, so that you can keep it for your records in future. It can be used in your career growth. Next slide, please. And so over to you, Dr. Henry, for poll number 2.
Thank you, Rahul. Just for one question about your presentation, what is the duration of training one person is asking?
So the duration of training is 12 months. Our course, the postgraduate diploma in global public health, procurement and supply chain management, is for 12 months course, and it's the duration will be 12 months for that course.
Okay, thank you very much, Rahul, for these comments. I just would like to add, before we do the second and last poll, that to the question, as a leader, how does someone deal with stubborn people without showing negative emotions? You have an answer, which has been published by one of the 5 panelists, Buiro Magesa. So please feel free to look at it. But at the same time, we invite you to answer this poll, which includes 4 questions. So kindly jot down or click in your answers to the 4 questions. We have 21 out of 55. You can see the poll on your screen. Let's try and have as many as possible. We are reaching 30, 27. That's half. Let's try and do better. 29. $30. A few more. So far, 59% of participants filled in their answers. I think that's all we're going to get, Rahul and Sonia. So should we close the poll? Close.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So we have 47% who have occasionally been involved in leadership campaigns, and 34, quite a lot. So that's good. But we still have 19% who have never, so hopefully they will have such opportunities in the future. Then leadership, is leadership needed in the health sector? We are happy to note that 84% believe that it is needed in the health sector, indeed. And then are you able to deal with the potential pitfalls of your leadership styles? 81% says yes, so that's good. But as we heard during the presentations, we can always dig deeper and enhance, improve our ability to do so. And how did you find this webinar? We are happy to note that 91% felt it was very useful. So thank you to all for your kind and active participation. We were very pleased to have you with us today. We would like to particularly thank Scholastica, who was our keynote speaker, for her insightful presentation. And we also thank all five panelists. We had Viro, John, Sarah, and Elizabeth. Thank you to all. Now, before we say goodbye, thank you and goodbye to all the participants, you will receive a certificate of participation, as you can see on this screen. So that will be signed by Marsha and by Professor Lalvani, who is the Dean and Director of Empower. So with this, I would like to thank all of you and wish you all a good journey as you continue to explore mindful leadership. Thank you. And goodbye.
I would like to add that, I am posting the link for these, this certificate. So anyone who wants to get this certificate, they can take it from the link. Just hold on, I'm just getting that link. So that they have to just fill in their details, put your name, your email ID. And once you do that, and even you can save this link and then your
Please use the one which was edited.
certificate will be in your email. Yes, we are going to use that. Sonia, can you please share that link?
Use the certificate that was edited, because this one which you have displayed is mixing the titles. Thank you.
No, we have used the same one. We have changed it as per your requirement, Ms. Masha. So now the link is there on the chat box. So you can click on the link. Please fill the form and down, and your certificate will be sent on your email ID. So take 2 minutes of your time. We are waiting for you to fill this form so that you can receive the certificate in email ID, in your email. I hope people are able to fulfill the registration form for the certificate. You can even copy and save the link and do it later on if you feel like. Dr. Henry, I think over to you and Ms. Masha for the closing remarks.
Good afternoon once again. This is a sincere appreciation for all of the participants. And without you, we could have been having only the panelists talking to themselves. So we appreciate the participants for your resilience in waiting for us to coordinate all this. We had a delayed start, but we still kept on a calm. Secondly, we appreciate a lot to our panelists for the preparation that they went into and ensuring that we receive the best of the best in mindful leadership. And this has informed our undertakings and also has have built our capacity to ensure that when we lead with mindfulness. We also appreciate this joint, this memorandum of understanding signing. And without this, we could have not have this jointness between TAWOPHA and Empower Swiss. So we appreciate a lot, Henry and your team. And with these remarks, we say that thanks to all the back-end technicians who have helped a lot in ensuring that we have the best of the best in terms of like ongoing polls and also participating in the end and the evaluation. With those remarks, allow me to say that we'll be having the best of engaging in terms of the scholarships that we have just announced, and together we'll be able to come up with the best who fits this one space, because it's just one space. And I believe we'll be having the a lot of young ones who are growing in the profession so that they can contest to fill this space. We also believe that the 5 spaces that have been allowed for us to join because of the partial sponsorship will also get befitting candidates. With those few remarks, once again, thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you very much to moderator. Henry, thank you so much. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Masha, and we are all excited here as an Empower team to be collaborating with TAWOPHA and to work further for such kind of engaging webinars in future, and also any of the events which are happening annually or 6 monthly, wherein you feel that our team can work along with TAWOPHA and look into more engagement in any of the other topics which are of interest to the TAWOPHA members, will be happy to be taking part in that. And thank you so much to all the speakers, Dr. Henry, for being our moderator today and taking out special time for being a part of this webinar. And thank you, Ms. Scholastica, for the key speaker note. And it was very enlightening, and it was very good to see the Ayurveda, three Vata Pitta Dosh thing, which generally in India we also follow the same. So I was very much excited to see that slide. And over to you, Dr. Henry, for your last remarks.
Thank you very much to all again. It's been a great privilege for me to be part of this event. I wish you all the best. Thank you again to all the panelists, to Dr. Scholastica, and the 4 panelists we have had. And Marsha, it's been a pleasure to briefly work with you. I hope we'll have more interaction in the future. Rahul and Sonia, as always, it's been a pleasure. We look forward to future events. And to all the participants, we wish you the very best, and as you continue to grow as leaders. Goodbye to all.
Yes. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Goodbye.
All the blessings.
Thank you. Thank you.